Welcome back to the show. Meet Kevin Kropp, a veteran sales manager with Vanguard Properties. With nearly 20 years as a top, welcome, Kevin.
Thank you.
Say, well, nearly 20 years as a top producing agent and sales manager for the last 7 years at Vanguard Properties, the Castro Street office, Kevin Kropp brings over 26 years of San Francisco real estate experience and more than $250 million in closed transactions. Amazing. Kevin's deep expertise spans the residential sales and investment properties of real estate development and remodeling, giving him a unique aspect and perspective that benefits his clients. Kevin's mission is to share his wealth of knowledge and sales savvy with Vanguard's growing team, guiding new and seasoned agents through the complex real estate landscape while protecting their best interests. He is committed to supporting buyers and sellers through every step, from first-time home purchase to multi-unit investments, ensuring informed decisions and smooth transactions. Beyond sales, Kevin actively advises clients on maximizing property value through design, development, and return on investment optimization. His background includes owning and managing a variety of property types, and he works closely with developers and buyers across all price points. Kevin also brings leadership experience with 16 years of managing teams of over 180 employees and more than 26 years as a landlord. Outside real estate, he contributed to the community by volunteering to teach reading and writing to kindergartners in San Francisco. I didn't know that.
Best job I ever had.
Guys.
And I didn't get paid.
Excellent. Well, let's put Kevin's experience and mentorship to work for you, because today in real estate, success comes from expertise, insight, and dedication. So meet Kevin, a dear friend of mine and colleague, veteran sales manager and mentor at Vanguard Properties.
The person you described sounds wonderful. I should give him a call.
Yeah, that's it. Everyone loves the bios, and even I learn things, and I've known you for probably 15 years now. So, really amazing. And I know that you used to manage a lot of people, and then you became an independent realtor on your own, a top producer for years, and now you're back managing people.
Yeah, I think it's just something you do.
Yeah, you either love it or you don't.
You're either, someone who nurtures, a caregiver, which I am, so I naturally end up in these roles. It started in the restaurant business for 16 years and then fell into real estate.
Yeah.
It's a lot of the same skill set. People don't realize it.
It's interesting because, I came from a similar background in hospitality. My parents were hotel owners, and then I was in the restaurant business myself for many years. Well, I love that you've grown into the leadership position, and we don't have an interview yet where we've had a manager, the sales manager, to share advice and to, this is all about helping others to learn from their peers, which you are, but you're also a leader. So tell me, what advice would you give a brand new agent today? The best advice or the first advice that jumps in your mind anyway.
The biggest mistake I see new people make is they're chasing the byproduct. People love to talk about the perfect body, but what does it take to get the perfect body? People love to talk about that perfect lifestyle. They're envious of the end result. But success you don't just go from starting to the end results. If you talk of people in the startup game and in venture capital, they've failed hundreds of times. They've lost millions and millions and millions of dollars, but they're in love with the risk. I think you have to be in love with the win in real estate. You have to be in love with the relationship. You have to be in love with the service. The byproduct of doing that well is lots of sales. Just like being in love with the perfect body, but not wanting to go to the gym or not wanting to eat boiled chicken every day of your life with brown rice. We get fascinated by the wrong thing. So with the new people, what I'm always advising them is find the thing that you love and then find the way to monetize that. If you love social media, then pursue social media and do it well. The best advice I was ever given is if you're not going to do it well, do not do it and do not put your name on it, because you're going to look really bad in the crowd when people look you up and you have a website that's completely out of date, or a social media Instagram feed that's completely out of date. So I think that's a huge mistake. We tend to chase things that are shiny, and this is an industry that's really about the basics. Every single day you have to get up and make the donuts. And it's really just about listening to your clients. Your clients will tell you what they want, and then your job is to get for. It's really simple.
Right.
But if you don't listen.
So what are the basics, in your opinion?
I mean, the first thing I do is I ask my clients, I need to spend time with them, because I need to see real estate through their eyes.
Sure.
If I don't see what they're seeing, how am I going to provide any service? How am I going to find the property that they're not seeing?
So you're talking about buyers?
Buyers and sellers. Like, as a seller, I need to, what I often talk about with a seller when I'm meeting a seller for the first time is walk me through the house and tell me why you fell in love with this house. Why did you buy this house over the other ones? And what the conversation leads to is everything that they see value in. And what I'll often talk about is the next buyer's likely going to be like you. They're going to like the house for the same reasons. So there's, again, it's chasing. Sellers sometimes want you to tell them how you're going to find somebody different, or found someone new, or, you know, find the foreign investor, find the person from Austin, Texas, who's coming back. But that's not how the business works. Your job is to present a beautiful product, make sure it's seen. And what I always say is, anywhere the eye stops, you need to be making money. So if it stops on a beautiful view, or a beautiful yard, or a beautiful kitchen, you're making money.
You want to influence that area?
Exactly. If it stops on a crack in the wall, or a pane of glass that's broken, or a yard that's not manicured, you're losing money.
That's good.
And
Because
it's like people get short-sighted.
And talk a little bit about working with buyers then, from the same perspective.
So with buyers, I'm also always asking them not to focus on the
Crack in the wall.
Yeah, because I'm trying to get them to see the big picture. Everybody wants to talk about price, but if you're talking about price, you're never going to buy real estate. They want to talk about all the numbers. I call it analysis paralysis. But what you need to talk about is value. Why we've seen 12 houses. Why do you like this house better than those? And what we always talk about is they all serve the same function. But why is, like, if you think of wristwatches, they all do the exact same thing. Your phone does it better than anything right now. But why are people willing to spend $20,000 on a Rolex, or $50,000 on a Patek, or whatever? It's because there's value there, and it's prestige, and it's all of these other things. But there's value in homes, but they all do the same things. They all have four walls. They all keep you warm if you turn the heat up, and can afford to turn the heat up. But why is a house on this street worth more than a house on that street, even if they're the same? Why are two houses on the same street in San Francisco priced millions of dollars apart? And price is a result of value. And so what I do with my clients is I get them out of the analysis brain and to talking about how you would use this home, or why doesn't this home work for you? And what I often focus on is the negative. Tell me why it doesn't work, because we all compromise on what we like.
Right.
But we
There's
don't
no dream, perfect,
Yeah.
anything.
We don't compromise on, I will not buy a house without parking. I will not buy a house that doesn't face whatever direction you want.
About how many times have our clients compromised when they said they wouldn't?
They do. But when I search for my own property that I own currently, I gave myself basically a 4-block radius. I wanted a 2 to 3 unit building, and I had to have a south-facing yard. And so I created these ridiculous parameters for myself.
I think you did pretty well. Well,
And I did very well, but it took me 3 years, and I waited for it.
yeah.
And the property I own came out at a price that was too high for me.
Now that's a great point. I want to elaborate on that. Sure. Because, using ourselves as examples, we waited 3 years, and you're a realtor. Do you have the patience to wait 3 years for a client? Do you do that often?
Yeah, well, my longest escrow to date is 360 days. So yes, I will wait.
Yes, I like it.
I've had clients that have waited for years. I always say this is a marathon.
That's correct.
I'm not here to run a sprint. That's transactional real estate, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of agents, there's times when I do a transaction. But I'm a relationship agent, and I'm really interested in helping my clients build wealth through real estate.
That's great.
I just had a client reach out to me, and they're thinking about getting a bigger home right now because the parents are getting older and blah, 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 blah. But when I met them and helped them buy their first home, the kids were 5 and 7. One's now in college and one's graduating high school.
Okay.
And it's just so amazing to be a part of people's lives and reconnect after 10 years. I haven't seen them in 10 years, and I saw them last week.
That's lovely. Do you keep in touch? How do you keep in touch with them? Typically, your database for clients.
So I tend to be more of a tactile person. I tend to throw parties and events invite people to have real conversations. I'm not the postcard agent. You're not going to get a lot of postcards from me. I tend to send a year-end review once a year digitally now, because I used to do it paper, but now everyone wants it digitally. So I do things like that, but it's not my strength. I have lots of areas where I could get better.
Well, but like you said in the beginning, you do what you're good at and do it well.
Yeah.
So you're a social person, and holding events is right in line with what you do. Some other people, as we know, are great at mail marketing, or at maybe they're good at stats and they send out monthly statistics. There's all kinds of brains, and then that's how people relate to you. So typically your clients are a good match. They're social and in general themselves.
I own part of a restaurant, so what I've been doing is having annual events at my restaurant.
Very nice.
And bringing people in to have the food and taste the wine.
So, do we need to know the name so we can plug it for you?
It's called La Ciccia. It's in Noe Valley. We just got ranked in the top 25 best restaurants in the Bay Area.
Italian, of course.
So
Yeah, it's a great restaurant.
Sardinian food.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I have family in Sardinia.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I do. My cousin Vinny. I know it sounds terrible, but it's true. Cousin Vinny.
Well, that's why they
There's
named it that.
I know it's a great.
It's like the Greeks,
It's a
where
great-
everyone has a Nick in their family.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Exactly.
it's the same thing.
Well, so let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about the current, like what's happening in the real estate world these days. There's been so many changes, right?
Yes.
And so you've seen the changes. We went from the MLS books, even, we had computers in 1994 just starting, and now it's like a whole new world. So tell me how have you adapted, and how do you teach your agents to adapt?
Well, I think there's two things to consider. It's not only you adapting as an agent, but it's you adapting your client base. So not every market is right for my client base. So I'm in a challenging period right now because my client base, it doesn't serve them to transact right now.
Meaning the market is too strong to
For
sellers.
For the past 18 months, it hasn't been a great market for sellers. And a lot of my clients are mainly a listing agent. About 70% of my business comes from the sell side. And a lot of my clients are in a financially sound position with really great mortgages. So if I call them up and say, hey, it's a great time to sell,
It's not true.
it's not true. And I'm not really good at lying. I always say I'm not smart enough to lie because I can't keep track of it all. So
And that's good.
I think that I've been moving like your job is to find the client base that you can serve in the market that you're in. And I'm transitioning to that marketplace right now, that client base. So I'm moving into a lot more buyers, and I've put it out there that I want buyers, and it's a great time to be a buyer. So I'm picking up buyers, and it's really fun to work with buyers.
Yeah, it's different completely. Yeah.
But it's so much fun. You're like driving around, and they're so lucky to be able to buy.
Yeah.
In the
Well, so it's a great time. It's true. I agree with you. And people who haven't been in the business longer than 5 years don't know anything different than the seller's market, right?
Yeah, they don't.
So suddenly it changes, and you have to write a whole new business plan.
And these are the markets where people really build wealth.
There's great opportunities out there right now. It's true. I agree.
So it's I'm moving into more of a buyer market, and I have a bunch of sellers that they're making less money, but it's not going to change their lives. So they're like, for them, if we sell it for $100,000 less, that doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, because they built the wealth with $1 million. I have a client now who I sold a house to 34 years ago, and all she did was sit still. She paid $250,000 for that piece of property here in San Francisco, and she's about to sell it for $2 million.
Yeah.
So, I mean, also give
I think it's saying over $2 million.
Well, that's from your ear to, you bounce the gods, so hey, who am I to say? I'm not going to say yet.
Predicting 2.2.
Thank you. Oh, that's lovely. You should be happy to hear it. Well, so when you talk about working with buyers, I find it interesting because today is not like 20 years ago when buyers, they didn't have access to everything on the internet.
Yeah.
And so I find that's a very different way to work with buyers. What is your experience with that?
So I think you have to provide value, and there's a myriad of ways to provide value.
And I'll jump in and add in with talking about why we're providing value. Now we have new laws from NAR and the Department of Justice in the past 2025, August, right?
Yeah.
That 24, sorry. And so how is that? Yeah, let's take it from there.
So it's interesting because it's changed and it hasn't changed at all.
Interesting.
So I think it's a lot more clear with the buyers transactionally. We've always had 3 documents. We've always had a listing agreement.
Here in California, we
Yeah.
should say, because nationwide they don't.
So we've always had a listing agreement. If you wanted to represent a seller and the seller wanted to hire you, they had to sign a listing agreement, or else you were not going to market their property. And if you want to sell a property, you need a contract. We've had a buyer broker agreement for years, but nobody used them. It was just a code of honor. You work with me, I'll work with you. I'm going to give you everything. And what's funny is the attack on the industry has been largely, on the buyer not knowing how their agent got paid and the seller being forced to pay the buyer's agent. And what's interesting to me is that all of the people fighting over this get paid every week. They get a check every week. The last person to get paid in a real estate transaction are the realtors. Every single person involved in the transaction, including the city, the state, the Fed, they all get their money. And then the last person with the smallest piece of the pie is the realtor. And what's interesting about it is we have worked in good faith for years. And I've worked with clients for years, and they just say, you know what, we're just not going to buy. I don't get to bill for those hours. I don't get to bill for that time. But what I see in the industry is it's a lot more transparent and a lot clearer. And I think that's really good because it does make people appreciate that a buyer's agent works very hard. They analyze disclosures on multiple properties. They advise their client. They discuss pricing. They run comps. They tell them what their gut feels. They use their relationships.
Really?
Yeah, a huge part.
A huge part of it. Because we live and breathe real estate every day.
Exactly, and we bring timely data points. So the problem with data in general in the real estate business is they're all lagging indicators.
It's true.
Most data points in real estate are 30, 21, 30, 35, 40 days old.
60 days out.
So, and in other parts of the country where escrows are typically longer, those data points are even more drawn out. In San Francisco, where our market moves so fast and with such a fever, you know, the timeliness of your data can be the difference between 20,000 or 50,000 or 100,000.
That's the truth.
And if the market is flattening, that's one data point. If the market's going up, 30 days can cost you a lot of money. And if the market's going down, 30 days can cost the seller a lot of money, but could save the buyer money. So you need to understand the market. And then there's the, you know, in San Francisco, we have about 50 or 60 micro markets. So I always say anytime you come up with an average, you're wrong 99% of the time, which isn't really a good statistic.
Yeah.
Because is the property you're talking about average, but everybody wants to talk about the average price per square foot or sales price.
I know it drives me crazy because at the end of the day, the value is the value, and the stats don't mean anything. Yes, we have some parameters to work with, but I agree with you.
So where do you see the value?
Well, so with your agents, I mean, how are they taking the changes, and how are you helping them to navigate that?
So it's interesting being an agent and also a manager, because I think the really good part is the information I'm giving them is timely. I'm fighting the same fight. I'm having the same failures. I'm trudging through the mud just like they are.
That's great.
And I have a perspective, since when you're in management, you audit all the files. So I have a little clearer indication on the data points because I'm seeing them as they come in every day. Where did that property sell? What are the negotiation points? So I do have an advantage in that environment. The way I'm advising the client, the agents is, the thing you need to know about this business is nothing's going to happen unless you make it happen. So what I see a lot of agents do is they're sitting on the side of the road just waiting for someone to pick them up. And that's not how this industry works.
Yeah.
Then you're an order taker. And if you're an order taker, you're probably going to get one order a year or two orders a year. You've got to go, if you're lucky, you've got to go find the business. You've got to prove your value. So what I'm advising the agents to do is get in front of your people. And Eileen, you taught me this, secret agents have skinny children.
Yeah, I love that one. That's what I'm
So everybody under the sun needs to know that you're a realtor.
That's right.
Otherwise, you're not going to be able to feed your family.
That's right.
So I talk about that a lot. And then the biggest mistake I see new agents make is they don't tour. They don't look at the inventory. And how can you know something if you've never seen the property? My favorite call I ever got, I was in the car, I'm driving, I had another agent in the car at the time, and I answer the phone, so it's on speaker. This agent calls me and says, hey Kevin, I saw your listing, blah, blah, blah. What do you think about the price? And I said, have you seen the property? She's like, no, I haven't had time.
Oh, gosh.
And I said, well, great. Why don't you come see the property? I'm happy to talk to you about price. But until then, there's not really a conversation. And I have the phone and the agent that was in the car, and there was a learning point. I said, never be that agent.
Right.
Never be the agent who knows nothing and asks a question that's material. Like, the price is a result of value. But if you haven't seen that or any of the comps, how do you know the value of this property? And it was just a waste of a phone call. But
I mean, people see them online and they think they've seen a property. I mean, how do you feel about that?
I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, we have all these words culturally. It's light, it's airy, it's open, it's this, it's this. But really what it's about is the field.
That's right.
And real estate is emotional. Unless you're just an investor. Then it's pencil and paper.
That's right.
So, you have to, like when I'm working with investors, we have one conversation. But when I'm working with a buyer, I say, well, how would you live in this property? Where would you put your sofa? Like, I want to see. And my favorite question is, would you be proud to have your family and friends over this house? And my favorite answer is no. And I said, then why are we here?
Right, let's move on.
Like, it's like, buying clothes and you're like, well, what do you look? I hate it. Well, why are you still on it? Take it off and let's go to a store where you can get something. It's the same thing with houses.
I love it.
So I just love those conversations.
Yeah, they're great conversations to have. And it's true. I concur 100%. You have to see the light, know the view. To just look online, so you can't even tell the floor plan. I mean, yes, they can provide a floor plan, but it's never the same as walking through a property.
Yeah.
So, and in San Francisco, and many places in the country, the facade is just a facade. They can all look identical, but when you walk in, it's going to be completely different. So you never know what's behind that closed door, is what I like to say.
It's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you've been a great open door, and I really thank you for your time.
Of course.
I love all that you have to offer, and I love that you share so willingly with not just me, but your agents. You've always been very generous at your time. So thank you very much for coming today.
I learned it all from you.
Oh, gosh. Oh, I'm going to give James a little credit at that one. Anyway.
James may have-
Yeah, we've been a great team, all of us, and I love working with you. So thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you.
All righty.